So Ken, the way that we're going to work this is now that we're live, you have to do the intro and give a rundown of what Extra Life is before we throw it to Bob. So go ahead and get that started, and I'll chime in.
I need to do a thing.
No. We won't. I won't do that to you.
Okay.
Next time, though, if you come back, you're a pro. But
I'll study up.
Gentlemen, are we live yet or no?
It looks like we're live as of right now. Or do we want to wait till somebody joins the stream, James, or do we just go get rolling?
We lost you, Norm.
Nope, you muted.
No. There he is.
There we go.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Great. We can get started then. And pretend that we have some theme music going right now. But hello, everybody. The Windy City Ghostbusters are excited to present the preeminent show focused on the charitable side of ghostbusting and some of the incredible people that throw on a heavy khaki jumpsuit and lug around a 30-pound backpack, all in the name of helping people and putting smiles on faces. I am your host, Patrick Calvert, and joining me as always, the central nervous system of the Windy City Ghostbusters, ensuring that we're broadcasting loud and clear over Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, James Norman. James, how are you today?
I'm spiffy. How are you?
Great. I'm doing well. Excited. Show number 1. And everyone that is watching can see we have a couple guests with us. First, we've got Kenneth Lustro. He is going to be our main interview today with the Windy City Ghostbusters. Also joining us will be Bob Anderson from Windy City Ghostbusters and Bob After Dark fame. And
fame, that's a little big word, Patrick. That's a big word.
Well, it depends on what circle you're famous within, and I think within our circle, you carry some weight. But so I appreciate you hopping on, and
of course,
we're going to try and make sure that we keep this show concise and finish within the hour. So why don't we just hop into it? Because as far as
I like how you put that warning in for me when I join. I'm sure you probably never have that. You didn't have that warning last week.
No, James sent me a script on that. So he said, Bob's joining us. Make sure we remind him. We don't want to go long.
That's fair.
We as far as the charitable side of ghostbusting goes, what a weekend we had, and James and Bob were kind of the driving force behind a big Extra Life fundraiser this weekend. So Bob, James, just want to toss it to you. If you can kind of go over real quick with our audience, what is Extra Life and what exactly you did this weekend and what you were able to achieve.
Norm, you want to say what Extra Life is, or do you want me to do that?
I mean, I can do that. So Extra Life is a really awesome charity that benefits Children's Miracle Network. So they raise money for children's hospitals across the country. So here in Chicagoland area, it benefits Lurie Children's Hospital. And basically what it is people that are participating in it basically just play video games and raise money for charity. So it's pretty neat. It's a lot of fun. But what we did this weekend was the yearly Extra Life Game Day, 25 hours this year at least. Marathon is what it's supposed to be. Bob and I didn't make it that far, but because it is a lot rougher than you think it is, especially when you're older like me. But it was still a lot of fun hanging out. Bob can tell you more about it, I think. So I'm gonna let Bob talk.
Sounds good. So Extra Life, we fundraise all year round, whether we're casually playing or running community fundraisers. This is my 4th event since I joined Extra Life in May. Normally, and the Ghostbusters out there may know this, in the community, but I've been running what's called the Bobverse, which is the Ghostbusters tabletop RPG from the 80s, the D6 system. I've been running that game for different groups of Ghostbusters across the country and making them do like a community play. Between the three of those that we've done, we raised $3,100. We did one Spirits Unleashed gameplay, which was about 500-ish. And then last night, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago, whatever it might be, for Extra Life Game Day, I raised $750. Norm raised about 70. So together, which I combine them together, we look at about $850-ish raised, which I'm not mad at all. I think that's pretty incredible between awesome. The two of us, and I'm very proud of that fact.
Yeah, I would be too. And to kind of give context around that, so that's one night of fundraising. You guys took in, if Windy City Ghostbusters was working multiple events over the course of a weekend, we'd be very pleased to get that through multiple events with our squad, and you guys were able to do that individually, and that's an awesome feat. And what was the total so far that you said you've raised with Extra Life this year, Bob?
So for me, it is $4,136, and I just joined Extra Life in May. If I made, I'm not cutting it. I said 10 minutes, I'd be gone. I'm not at 10 yet, so we're good. So what I do in my full-time job when I don't wear the Proton Pack is I host a paranormal podcast and radio show called Bob After Dark. And with Bob After Dark, I have a platform that I'm able to kind of speak on, and I'm able to kind of do something with. And I'm always giving back anyway. I've been doing the Ghostbusters charity thing for many years. And I wanted to try something different, and I wanted to do it not as a Ghostbuster. I wanted to do it as Bob, and in this case, Extra Life just kind of fits that need for me. It's a charity where you kind of dictate how you go about doing things, and it's really cool, like, to be my own manager when I'm doing my fundraisers and whatnot, and it's a really cool thing. So I joined back in May, and since then I've done 5 fundraisers, 4 of which were the Ghostbuster, or 3 of which were the Ghostbuster tabletop RPG. So, and all of that builds up to the Extra Life day of play. Different people do different things. Some folks do it, and I think this is going to be mine and Norm's plan next year, is we're going to do 2 12-hour days. Some people do 2 16s, 2 12s, and then some people do it. Most people do it the Saturday, Sunday. This past weekend was the day of play. Mm-hmm. But some people can't for whatever amount of reasons, so they move their day of play around to being whatever, So, for example, most of our leadership, because they're busy making sure we're taken care of on the team, most of them run theirs during Thanksgiving weekend. So it's just however, you do your day of play whenever, and the idea is to crank out 24 hours worth of gameplay. I got back home yesterday after spending the streaming with Norm for the full day before. I came back home, I tried to nap, I tried to stream, and I fell asleep while streaming twice when I got back home. So altogether, I streamed about 19 hours between the 2-ish days.
I would throw an extra contribution if you could just do a mashup of you falling asleep and throw that video out there for all of us.
It was a quick, I jolted awake. So that's essentially it. And Norm was playing for the Windy City Ghostbusters because he joined because I made him.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Norm, for always kind of listening to me. I made us as the team do it, and I think the plan is to kind of encourage our team next year to kind of share the channel a little bit and have other Ghostbusters be able to go on and live stream. That's not just me and Norm.
Yeah. Sure. And that makes just sense for your ability to keep the energy levels.
Oh, sure. That I just
can you guys take a 45-minute break here or there would be a big help, sure.
But we'll see where we're at. I mean, it's just, right now that's just, it's kind of cool to have that. And so I'm very proud of being a part of Extra Life.
Great. Well, we're proud of what you guys are doing and what you have done. And Bob, you've really been. You,
What's so funny?
There's a comment in the chat. Donate for Wiki Taser.
Look, man, don't taunt Norm. He would do that. Next year, the tickle Bob is going to be on the wheel of death. Which, okay, it's 10:25. I will stop by 11 minutes. We did this fun thing during stream where we spun a wheel for every $5 somebody raised, and a couple of the torture spins were wear the Ghostbuster gloves while playing. There you go. You wear the Ghostbuster gloves while playing a game. Play Ghostbusters on NES, which is one of the worst games ever made, was on there. And then one of the greatest torture things you could do to a Ghostbuster, make them play a He-Man game.
Ooh.
So I had to play He-Man and wear Ghostbuster gloves. It was a lot of fun.
I've never even seen a He-Man game.
There are 4. There's a PS2 one, there is a Game Boy Advance one, which is what I played. There's an Amiga, and then there's the Masters of the Universe, the movie, the game.
There's also the Intellivision game.
That's
as a big fan of He-Man in the 80s, I don't know how I missed those. Probably because I was trying to beat the Zool level on the Ghostbusters NES game, because I grew up in a time when that was the only game available to me, so it was played, and I was surprised I stayed a fan all these years after having
Bob
that game.
just doesn't like that game because he's bad at it.
Shut up, Norm. Okay, I've talked enough. This show is not about me, but I appreciate you having me on. But I am going to sit here and hang out with my mic muted because it's nice to hear somebody's voice.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. And real quick, anything left in the year as far as your fundraising, your individual fundraising?
I have Thanksgiving Day weekend. I am going to either Friday or Saturday. I'm going to do Saturday morning cartoons, the stream. I'm going to get geared up in my onesie and sit down and eat cereal. And I'm going, which is different than my branding now because I normally play spooky games. But I'm going to queue up like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Tailspin Goof Troop. And I'm just going to play those that's my Extra Life Charity Day. And then I have one more TTRPG session planned for December. More on that later.
Awesome. Well, everyone that's watching can follow Bob on Facebook. And where else can they find you, Bob, to make sure they keep abreast of your...
Bob After Dark is a show. You can find that wherever you find good podcasts at. And then you can follow me on any of the social media versus twitch.tv/Bob After Dark Plays for all of my Extra Life stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you hopping on last minute here. And
no problem, Ken. I'm sorry for taking away 13 minutes from you, man.
No, that's fine. I just find it funny that we're talking about Ghostbusters, the video game on NES, and it is playing right here.
I know. You're a monster. I was trying to avoid that. All right, you enjoy your session. Real fast before I go, I just wanted to say, as the guy who came up with this idea, it's really good to see people still wanting to do it, and I really like to see the show blossom and flourish. So thank you, the three of you, for making sure that the show is running this week, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're excited. We're glad that this exists, and happy to step in. And that's all the time we have today for Why We Bust. We appreciate you coming. And next week, Ken, we'll get started. Just kidding. All right.
Have a good one, guys.
It was great. Thanks for having me on.
3 viewers, and we lost them all. But no, now the main event. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, James. This week I wanted to introduce someone that James and we talked about. You, Ken, is and I don't think James knew, but you were the first Ghostbuster that talked to me.
Oh, really?
To the Ghostbusters. You were at my first event at the Lockport Touch a Truck
yes, I remember.
event in 2023, and I had no idea what I was doing and how anything worked. But you looked gentle enough initially for me to feel that I could be vulnerable and say, I have no idea what to do, and I'm pouring sweat in my first time ever wearing a jumpsuit and proton pack, because I think that touch truck was about 103 degrees with no shade, and
something like that. Yeah, it was very, very warm out.
It was a brutal day. The first time I ever had to wear all the gear in my life. So that was my introduction to Ken. But Ken, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit. And could you, what should we start with? Again, I'm new, so bear with me. But should we start with what brings you to Ghostbusters, or what brought you to Windy City Ghostbusters, and we can work our way back from there?
What I guess why don't we start with what brought me to Ghostbusters in the first place, since that's kind of the genesis of all of it. So I've been into Ghostbusters for as long as I can remember. I was actually just talking to my parents a few weeks ago about it because I was wondering. I'm like, I don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't into Ghostbusters. There's always like the cartoon show and the movies and the toys, and I don't remember seeing anything for the first time except for the second movie. It's always just been there. So I asked them, I'm like, what came first? Was I watching the cartoon show and then we went and saw the movie, or did we go see the movie and then I was in the cartoon show? My parents were like, I don't know. We don't remember. It's just always been there.
Yeah,
because
my parents were no help in me deciphering that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as I sit and think about it, like, what is my very first Ghostbusters memory? And the very first one that pops into my head is going with my parents to the drive-in and watching Ghostbusters 2. That is my first Ghostbusters memory. And then, of course, there's dressing up for Halloween and the cartoon show and all the toys. And, it's just always been there. So it's all the other fandoms and things that I've been into. I like Star Trek and Star Wars and, all kinds of different sci-fi and everything. But no matter what it is, there's always the passion for Ghostbusters is right there.
I understand exactly what you're talking about there. And do you have any moments from that first drive-through viewing? Is there a moment in the movie that stands out to you from that experience? It's okay if it doesn't.
Not so much. Just because I remember this, and when I was talking to my parents about it, they confirmed it. They're just like, you were not interested in that movie very much. In fact, you were a terrible child that night, causing a ruckus in the car.
But something stuck with you at least.
But yeah, I mean, it's like bits and pieces. Like I sat and I remember watching the movie, but I also remember being just very like, why are we sitting in the car?
Right. Well, how old were you when the movie came out? This would have been 1989.
Yeah, so it came out June of '89. I would have been 4.
Okay. Yeah, you and I was 83, so you're not far behind. But yeah, no, that's my first film memory is going to see that. But it's got to be the cartoon. It was in the mornings, and I just don't see my parents showing me Ghostbusters 1 on cassette or anything to really get me going without me having an interest in it in general. But
yeah, I don't know, because I was exposed to a lot of movies way outside of my age range when I was that young. Like I remember being like 4 and 5 watching, more like violent movies.
Oh wow, okay.
But I don't know, I don't think it really adversely affected me very much. My dad actually had this thing where we would watch a movie, and back then they had there's a TV show on, I think it was Discovery Channel, called like Movie Magic, and they would talk about whatever the big movie like came out that year. They would go through the special effects. This is how they did this. This is how they did that. Because I was also, when I was little, I was super into Terminator 2. Like that movie came out in 91, I think. So I would have been like, right. 5 or 6 when that movie came out, and I watched it and absolutely loved it. And we would sit there, and I have vivid memories of them doing the behind the scenes. Like, here's how they did the puppets for the full size Terminators. Here's how they did this effect and that effect. So watching the movies, I knew it was all fake and pretend.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you have that interest in understanding how it's done.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess
that handmade.
Right. So I guess the point I was working towards is that I may have started, like I may have seen the original first movie when I was like that small. Like maybe it came on TV.
Yeah.
Maybe I started with the cartoon show and we caught it the movie one night. We're not sure. Like even my parents don't know. So that part is lost to time.
Right. And so I'm going to bookend this because I want to ask a little bit about the in-between time, but just getting to why we bust. So when did you first become aware of Windy City Ghostbusters, and what kind of was the catalyst for you to join up?
So I first became aware of Windy City maybe about 3 years ago or so, 2021-ish. Because I had been aware of the concept of Ghostbuster franchises and groups for many, many years. Probably about 15 years ago or so, I remember going to Wizard World Chicago, and I ran into Ghostbuster Chicago division, and I thought these guys looked amazing with their gear and their jumpsuits. And someone who didn't really have any of that, I'm just like, oh my God, I want to be like these guys. These are the cool kids. So I never really had the resources, the knowledge, or the talent to build Proton Pack or really know how to get a jumpsuit together. Like I had made jumpsuits before. Because one year for a convention, me and a couple of my friends went as the Ghostbusters, and I bought khaki jumpsuits, but I didn't know really where to get patches or name tags or anything like that. So I just made my own by printing them out on transfer paper, ironing them onto a shirt, cutting them out, putting them on. My first Proton Pack that I built was just foam in a cardboard box. It looked horrible, looked terrible. So I'd always wanted like good, accurate equipment. And so after a decade or so, I finally decided, you know what? When Spirit started coming out with their stuff, I'm like, this looks great. It's priced at a price point that's approachable. You know, I don't have to spend $1,500, $2,000 on a Proton Pack. I can spend $80 on this one that looks good enough.
Right.
So I slowly started piecing everything together, and I'm like, you know, there's those guys from the Ghostbusters Chicago something or the other. I wonder if I can still find them. So I just hopped on Google, and that's how I found Windy City. I actually, at the time, I thought they were one and the same. I didn't remember what they were called. But I'm just like, oh yeah, like this seems cool. Because I just figured it's just a group of Ghostbuster nerds who get to hang out, talk Ghostbusters, and do stuff at cons. That seems cool. So when I found out it was for charity, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is something I want to be part of.
That's a fun story, and I think there's a value to remembering that when we're at events and we're shaking hands and we're handing out cards, and it's amazing how many people tell us that we're doing what they want to do, and I've already been seeing it start to happen where you recognize a face of a rookie and go, oh, that was the guy we met over at the Wonderverse event or wherever that is. And I think that's an important part of remembering all of our interactions and kind of the weight they carry. As you know, every member, there's an exponential growth of what we can contribute back. So there's whether someone's putting money in the containment unit, or buying a patch, or if they're just saying hello, I think it's all going for the greater good of the cause. Right. And it's fun to hear how that kind of grew with you there. And so you were kind of keeping the torch alive with your Ghostbuster fandom for a little while, but you are well aware, like me, of just kind of that desert in between when the cartoons sort of faded away from Saturday mornings, and pretty much when the video game came out in 2008. Like, was Ghostbusters still an active, present part of your fandom then? Did it lull a little bit?
Absolutely. It's never faded. I religiously would watch the movies probably once or twice a year. I was always periodically going on and looking at how to build the proton pack, how to do the costumes and everything, and just
So were you looking
especially
at those same files like from Norm something Gagnon or
I
somebody like the old
I
Proton Pack build files on GB fans and
I'm not sure. I remember as far back as probably being in high school, so like the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, being online looking at people's packs that they had built and be like,
Mhm.
how did they do that?
Yeah,
So it's
I remember some of those early internet days of seeing somebody built. I think it was Norm, and I can't remember which site it was at the time because this was maybe late '90s for me, anyhow. And I have a friend. We were both Ghostbuster fans together,
Mhm.
and so I remember
Mhm.
he and I getting these plans together on a summer afternoon and trying to figure out how we would acquire all the stuff. Quickly realizing we couldn't afford it,
Yeah.
and scrapping the project. But it was so exciting to see that people are doing that, and I've always kept that kind of in the back of my mind too.
Yeah.
That there are people, and the fact that they're doing it for a cause is awesome.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I wasn't alone, like for most of the 90s, yeah, I was just me, but once I got to high school, like one of my best friends, we're still friends today. He's also a huge Ghostbuster fan, so we sit there and we just quote the movie at each other endlessly. And we still do that.
Yeah, I'm right there. It does create a constant bond for you uh,
Mhm.
with that. And I know, yeah, my buddy, we went probably almost 10 years without seeing each other after I got married, and think just life was getting in the way. And but as soon as we see each other, all it takes is a Ghostbusters prompt, and it's like old times. But
Yep.
so when was your official induction into Windy City? When did you become a member officially?
I think it was 2001. Towards the end of the summer, we were at I can't remember the name of the event. It was one of those like kind of like spooky shows, but it was outside. Um, it surprised me because I got sworn in an event early. It was my third event, and after some of the leadership had shown up, we're just standing around talking, and I think it was Joe. He had asked me about where I was with my events, and I'd mentioned, "Oh, this is number 3. Um, number 4 is next week. It's actually for my friend's son. They wanted us to come out, so they specifically asked for me to be there in gear. So I'm going to be at that event regardless if I'm there with Windy City or I'm just there as a guest." And
Hmm.
he just kind of went, "Oh, okay." And then we went on with the rest of the event, and then they start pulling people up to do the induction, and they say, Joe said, um, "This is his third event, but we're going to do it early." And they called me up, and I'm just kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Biggest mistake we ever made. But
Nah, you're not wrong.
so you've joined now. You've got a couple of years under your belt. Has there been anything that's really surprised you, or or given you a different view of what we do and what goes on in this time?
I don't know if anything has changed necessarily. It's just more of just learning more as time goes on. Just yeah. I don't know. I'm not actually sure about that because
Yeah.
it's pretty for the most part. It's pretty straightforward. We're a charity. I think we were a 501c3 at that point already.
Hmm.
So we raise money for La Rabida, and that's
Yeah.
what all this is for. So I'm just like, cool, sign me up, let's go.
Yeah. Just put me in. But
Exactly.
and so what I think when we're at events, and now that I've been around not even a couple years, but to enough. I've
Mhm.
You start to notice certain people tend to fill certain roles at the event. Some folks like to be at the table and be the talkers. Some folks like to do the walk around and kind of promote to steer people towards our booth. Some people like to be the picture person. Do you have a role you like to make sure you take on, or you put extra attention to it at the events?
I just try my best to look for where there might be an opportunity to have coverage and jump in there. Like for example, when we did the Not So Scary Hayride, one of the days that I was there, Jason was there. He was manning the table. I'm like, Jason's really, really good with the table. We got Biggie off to the side, so I'm like, let's stand over here and take pictures with people and try and steer them to the table. The last event I did was the toy show. I noticed there's some opportunity to have someone there doing pitches, so I made a point to be at the table talking to people. So it's just kind of whatever it seems like we need at the time, I try to jump in and do.
Perfect. The sort of the safety of the of the group there, but and I think that's important. There's a social aspect, obviously, when we all get together, and I think sometimes as somebody that can get myself easily distracted, I try and work hard to not allow myself to fall too much into the strictly social side of these events, and to keep an attitude of I'm here to work and to complete a job, and focus on that. And your attitude there, if I recall, my second event you were also at, and that was the Burr Ridge screening of Afterlife, I think. And I did not know what to do in that situation because there wasn't a great picture taking opportunity on things. So we had the table and a pretty big crew. And again, I looked to you for a little bit of guidance, and it was let's keep ourselves busy. Let's patrol the area. Kind of, we walked the perimeters and engage with people as they came in. And that's, keeping yourself busy and not just looking idle, I think also helps.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
When the people running the event look over to the Ghostbusters, you don't want them to see a bunch of us standing around chit-chatting the entire time and wondering where their donation is going. So that's a good attitude to have, and I'm glad you talked to that a little bit here.
I had my previous job. I have 11 years retail customer service experience, so I do my best to bring that experience to Windy City.
Do you, in an effort to get us completely off track, in that experience, do you have any nightmare customer memories of dealing with the general public?
Just at work or doing
no,
this?
Not at work, not at Windy City.
Oh yeah.
In your retail experience.
I'll tell you one. It's probably one of my favorite ones. So I worked. Am I allowed to say where I used to work, or is that no?
Just you can tell us the type of place it was.
Okay, I worked at a certain drugstore pharmacy.
Gotcha.
And we had a photo department, and in my time with the company, I had moved up to basically assistant manager position. So, I got called out to photo because there was a unhappy customer. So we had a policy where that if you come in and you're trying to get pictures done, if they look professional, like let's say, you went to you got your kid's school picture or whatever, and you're coming in to make copies, you have to have a release from the photographer. The photographer has the copyright on that image. If they don't want you making copies, you can't make copies, and we're legally prohibited from doing that. Oh, hi, Haru. So this dude comes in, he's trying to get his daughter's school pictures done. They get printed, and he doesn't have a release. And so my photo tech is like, I'm sorry, we can't sell you these pictures. It's against the law, blah, blah, blah. Give him the spiel. I want to talk to your manager. Okay. So I get called out to photo. And he's like all huffy and I gave him the exact same spiel that my photo tech had given him. It's, I'm sorry, these are professional pictures. You need to have a release. Since they're professional, the photographer can refuse the right to have you do your own pictures. And he starts going off on this whole big tangent about how he's a lawyer and that's not a thing, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting there talking with him. My photo tech goes into the office, prints out the policy, highlights a thing at the top that says, we cannot print professional pictures, brings it out, puts it on the counter, points to it. He looks at it, stares at it for a second, and I can hear the rusty gears in his head going. And then he goes, well, this is ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. And he just starts going off on this whole big tangent. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, that's the policy. If I do this and they come back, this is on me. I'm sorry. And he just starts screaming about how he's gonna sue me and this and that. And I'm just like, okay, sure, whatever. Would you like your corporate number? He's like, yeah, I want your corporate number. I want to get you fired. I want to sue you. Okay, here you go. And as he's turning, and his daughter is standing there going, oh my gosh, Dad, shut up. So then finally he turns away. He walks away. He gets halfway down the store and he turns around and he's like, I look forward to suing you. And I'm just like, okay, bye.
And he stewed on that for weeks afterwards.
Oh, I bet he did. So yeah, I'm happy I don't work in retail anymore.
Yeah, I don't miss it. I worked at Blockbuster Video in high school and early college as my first job, and nothing better than telling people that they can't rent a video because of a late fee.
Yeah.
But so I've had my share of those angry customers, but I always love a good rotten customer story from people in customer service. But so you talked a lot about Ghostbusters, but you've mentioned some other fandoms, and you're not a stranger to cosplay. I had never done any cosplay until I got involved with Windy City Ghostbusters, but you've been involved in a few other things. Can you talk about your history with cosplay and some of the other stuff that you?
Oh, for sure. So I've been doing cosplay as a hobby for many, many years now. I've always been into costumes and dressing up. Like Halloween was my favorite holiday because it was, I was sitting there with my parents and my dad and coming up with cool costumes. Like I remember I'd mentioned earlier when Terminator 2 came out, I loved the movie. I dressed up as the Terminator for Halloween one year. And again, like being, I don't know, 5-6 years old. And with Terminator being the movie at the time, you can go into the Halloween store and they had the half mask of the Terminator head.
Okay.
Like the endoskeleton and the eye lit up, and it came with a makeup kit to make it look like, your face had gotten blown off.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Oh yeah. See? So yeah, I got like a denim jacket. We couldn't find like a little leather jacket for a kid, but we got like a blue denim jacket, put a big Harley Davidson patch on the back, got a little minigun. My dad did up the makeup, so like my face is all bloody. I got like, the big red glowing eye. And I went to school like that because we did the, Halloween party. And we do, they used to do a parade outside. So like all the kids from all the classes like do a big parade. And the parents sit there taking pictures. And I'm walking around and I think it's like the principal comes up and she taps me on the shoulder. And she's like, excuse me, can I take your picture? And I turn around to look at her and just with my bloody messed up face. And she just goes, ah! I just click, thank you. So cosplay and dressing up has always been my thing. When I started going to conventions, it started getting like more, not serious, but I always brought that energy to it. So I love, just dressing up. I've dressed up as characters from Doctor Who. I've done Resident Evil. I've done, obviously Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters has probably been one of my longest running ones. So yeah, I love it. It's so much fun. I have a few costumes that I have on rotation. If I need to dress up for something, I can just grab it and go.
Yeah. I think my lack of knowledge of Resident Evil, I think one of your characters that you've cosplayed from there, I thought you were being the Big Boss Man from early 90s WWF with your blue cop shirt, but that was that was not who you were. But if you ever need to make a quick switch, let me know. I can tell you what needs to be added.
Yeah, that's just patrolman number 6, the dude who stands over on the left. That's my costume.
And so you mentioned putting together your Ghostbuster costume. I exhaust way too much mental energy in dissecting the Ghostbusters costume and uniform myself. So how did you kind of put yours together? Is there anything unique about the kind of, as you built the Ghostbuster that you are? Is there a particular, look or feel that you're going for?
No, because I'm very much, whenever I do a costume or a character, I spend time thinking about the character's history, what they've done. So like specifically for like my Ghostbuster costume. First thing I'll say is I've never been one for crazy screen accuracy. I'm not like, I know there are some people who they want the everything to match up to exactly what you see on screen. They can point at their costume and be like, this is based on this uniform that they wore in this scene. It was done this way. I'm like, I am not that guy. I appreciate
the 4 different styles of Moogly patch that go on between.
Exactly. I don't know if anyone here. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if anyone here used to listen to it whenever they put on an episode, but like those guys that do the Black Firehouse podcast, like they are, when it comes to detail, they are insane. I appreciate it. I love it. I like listening to them talk about it. I do not have the patience for that. So for me, it's more when I do a costume, it's okay. What is my Ghostbuster doing? So it's, I got my jumpsuit that I wear for Windy City is just kind of one of the, what is it? I think it's True Spec. It's a True Spec flight suit. I'm like, that's fine. This is what my Ghostbuster was issued. And I try and find reasonably screen accurate things. Because I do like the jank on like the no ghost patch and everything. So I try and stick to more screen accurate patches. But as far as the costume itself goes, it's like I said, it's more like what's the story? Like,
yeah. And I think
I was gonna say my jumpsuit, if you look at it, it's got little specks of ectoplasm all over it because it's like, well, if I'm going out on a job, I'm getting slimed. Yeah. I'm getting manhandled by ghosts. So, I love like, those little details, all the scratches and scrapes on the proton pack. That's the stuff that I'm like really into.
The lived in world there.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I know that was, I had going in, I wanted to be super screen accurate wherever I could. And I've pulled back a little bit on that, as just so much of the stuff in the movie doesn't look good in real life. It's the name patches, they're real sloppy. The Mooglies on the arms are sloppy. The jumpsuits are two-toned. They use different reams of fabric on there. And it's just, the more screen accurate I would get, I also felt like as I meet the general public, they only have kind of an idealized look of what a Ghostbuster is. And the more kind of extreme I get into the screen accurate stuff, they just look at me and go, oh, that guy just put together kind of a cruddy a cruddy outfit.
It's ironic, like the most time, effort, and money, the costumes that have all that are the ones that look the worst.
Right. Which to me, I love that. And I want to see that, but I'm trying to think of, who's the mom or dad or the person that's wondering if they should invite us to their next town's, function that looks like this. No, this guy doesn't look that great. So
Ruh-roh. Hello?
Paging Dr. Patrick. Dr. Patrick, you have a phone call at the front desk. Oh, man.
Poke. Patrick, you there?
But to kind of expand on like what you guys are talking about, if you think the Ghostbusters stuff's crazy, man, you should really do a deep dive on Stormtrooper costume.
Oh, I have heard how insane
because
that
my
is.
God, the amount of white gaffer's tape and things that are actually on the costumes is crazy. Hi, Bob.
Hey, I figured I'd jump in real quick. I was watching, and I know Norm's not prepared for interviewing questions, so
Are you our backup interviewer?
I
These are
never.
emergency.
This
Our
was
emergency plan.
this was an emergency. I'm here. I'll let Norm try to get in touch with Patrick during this, so I will step in for the moment. I am the stunt Patrick.
Time to break out the bob.
All right, so I asked a question in chat because I'm not exactly sure where you and Patrick left off. So I will start with my own question if that's okay.
Go for it.
You're a
there's
special
Patrick.
effects guy. So what is your favorite practical special effect in any movie of all time?
I adore. Oh, that's hard because it's a toss up because the two movies that I personally think have some of the best special effects is Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, the T-Rex and the Velociraptors are so well done. Good choices.
Yeah, so it's the animatronics, just the way they got the dinosaurs to move. You know, the T-Rex is just a giant puppet, and then the Velociraptors at the end when they're hunting Lex and Tim in the visitor center is, I think it's guys in suits, but it looks phenomenal. So like that springs to mind, and then again like Terminator 2, the scene when Arnold's walking down the hallway and the police are shooting at him, and they have that puppet of him just getting blasted and revealing the endoskeleton underneath. That's fantastic. Like I think those are my two go-to movies when it's like I need to talk about the art of filmmaking.
That's great. I'll jump out. Patrick's here. I'm just going to go on mute in case he drops again, and I'll jump on the commission interview. All right.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks for the help, Bob. Yeah, rookie mistake as a host. Plug your computer in to a power source before you start a live broadcast. So I appreciate your patience there, and I will say, Ken, with your pick with Jurassic Park, that's one of those. It still is some of the best computer graphics. What they're going on? What 25 years later?
Oh no, that
I can't do math. I was an English major.
5?
Close to 30. Yeah, 30 years.
Yeah, it's because they used it. They did the CG sparingly when they needed it, and then they had
that
the
you can't
for
tell the
else.
switch between the practical and the CGI when they're using the puppetry versus the computer stuff. That's what always gets me on there. Is it's a seamless blend of the two, and it's right up there with the terror dog running across the street in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, speaking of like Jurassic Park, there's a poster of Rexy just right there from when she's attacking the Explorer.
Yeah, that's another one of those. Yeah, I saw that in the theater, and yeah.
I ruined my camera.
Perfect. Well, Ken, as we head into the home stretch here, where do you see, your current role and kind of where do you want to be in the future with Windy City Ghostbusters, as far as what you'd like to contribute?
I'm just happy to pitch in where I can. As it currently stands, because of my job, I don't get the opportunity to go out to as many events as I would like to. I was able to more last year. This year, it's just been hard with scheduling and coverage. So I've had to, my Friday for the week is Saturday. And how many events do we do on a Saturday that I can't get off to go to? So I'm just, whenever I see something come up on a day that I'm available, I jump on it, and I'm just happy to go and, stand at the booth, talk to people about what we are, what we do, take pictures, just bring in smiles to people's faces. That's what I really like doing.
Mm. Yep, absolutely. And I'm right there with you. There's not an event that goes by where I'm not touched by something happening there. Whether it's the amount of good that we've been able to do for La Orbita or Lurie's, or if it's sometimes you can just see that kid, or even now, the adults that come by and see, oh man, this is a this is a real proton pack in front of me. This is a ghost
Mhm.
trap on the table. You know, those sorts of eyes wide open kind of moments just make everything worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah, because people don't expect to see Ghostbusters out wandering around. You know, when they step out of the door, they're, you know, they go somewhere and just like, oh my goodness, there's Ghostbusters, and it's just everybody loves it. It brings a smile to everyone's faces. Everyone gets a kick out of it. You know, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. And you know, just to, you know, your picture that Norm put up to advertise for today is sort of a bucket list item for a lot of Ghostbusters. Could you talk about what it was like to make the trek up to New York this past year?
So it was surreal. I wanted to go to the firehouse again, probably since I was 5 or 6, for as long as I've been in the Ghostbusters. It's been one of probably 2 things that if I didn't do it when I'm lying on my deathbed, I'd regret not doing it. So I wanted to go last year, but I couldn't make it work. But then when I realized, oh, next year is the 40th anniversary, I'm sure they're gonna be doing a bunch of stuff. I told my wife, "You're going to New York next year. It is happening." And she's like, "Okay, let's do it." So it's did everything I had to do to make sure that it happened. And when going to see the firehouse is all I ever really wanted to do in New York. Like there's other, I'd want to go see other things. Of course, there's the touristy stuff. Of course, there's more filming locations for Ghostbusters to go check out that I'd love to go see. But it's, if I could only go and see one thing, it's the firehouse. So we drove up there. So I'll tell you just my experience at the firehouse, and I'll tell you more about the trip because it's insane. It was so surreal. You know, seeing it for the first time, my first thought was, it's smaller than I thought it would be. Like in the movies, it always seems like so massive, but then you look at it, you're like, it's not that big of a building.
It's not much wider than our garage.
No, it is not. It is not. So I mean, it was just seeing it, and especially since, you know, they've had the No Ghost logo hanging outside for a few years now, but especially now that it's hanging where it's supposed to be, where it was in the movies, like just walking up and seeing it as I've seen it my entire life, it was so surreal. I didn't really do anything while we were there. We were there for 3 hours. I talked to some people. We walked around. I found some of our people who had gone up there to see it. But I think 90% of what I did when I was there, I just stood and stared at it. I got a picture. There's a picture of me hugging it. I walked up and I got my challenge coin from him. And then while I'm before I left out on lawn, I hopped off to the side and I just went, "Hi, firehouse."
Just soak it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Absorb the scene.
And so yeah, I mean, and seeing the ectos there, it was just so cool and surreal. It's like how many times have I seen this building watching Ghostbusters and in other movies, and now I'm standing in front of it looking at it. It was so surreal. So now here's the insane part of the trip. So we drove the whole odyssey to see the firehouse took 2 days. It was I think the event was on a Saturday. So I took off work Friday, Saturday. We got in the car early Friday, drove the whole day, took about 13-ish hours to get there. Got to, we drove to Jersey City, spent the night, woke up early the next morning, got ready, hopped in the car, drove into Manhattan, got to the firehouse, got out, did our stuff, hung out, got in the car, drove home.
Oh, no.
Literally all we did was we saw the firehouse. Got into Manhattan, went there. The firehouse. Okay, back in the car, drive home. And we were home that night.
You have a very understanding partner.
She understood how much this meant to me, and she's like, I want you to have this experience.
Yeah.
So,
and there aren't a lot of things that can bring sort of your fantasies to life, and something that's had a such an impact, but not in a tangible way on
Right.
your life. And that's one of those. And you saying you just kind of stared at it and wanted to hug the building. It's sort of like when when the Ecto One New Jersey came to Wonderverse,
Yeah.
and everybody went inside, and I, after a few minutes, snuck back out because it was finally calm, and I just wanted to sit there and stare at it, which you know. Thank goodness I was by myself, because I would have been annoying anybody else that was actually trying to do something with their day, because I just
Yeah.
wanted to see this thing that has occupied so much of my mental space for so long. But
Right. Yeah, and that's the great thing. Like I like collecting prop replicas and stuff because it brings out, this world that doesn't exist. You can hold a small piece of it in your hand and interact with it.
Yeah.
It through
Yeah.
that object it becomes real. So to be able to go to the firehouse with the sign hanging above the door, with an Ecto in front of it, and to stand there in my uniform with all the gear, the proton pack, the trap, everything, for that time, I am living in the Ghostbusters universe right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Awesome.
Aside from being in a movie, this is it. Like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And you're also doing it with Windy City Ghostbusters. You are
Yes.
a Ghostbuster, and
I
that's
am.
something that's an odd thought to have. But as much as a Ghostbuster can be in the real world, that's what you get to be every
Yeah.
time you come to a Windy City event, and that's a special thing.
Yeah, and like I've wanted to be a Ghostbuster again since I was 4 or 5 years old. That was the dream. Like, if I could have any job in the world, what would I want to do? It'd be a Ghostbuster. If I could do
Awesome.
Windy City full time and quit my job, I would do it in a heartbeat, because it's all I've wanted to be is a Ghostbuster, and I finally get to do that.
That's awesome. And you're doing a lot of good, Ken, and we're proud of you and happy to have you as a member of Windy City Ghostbusters. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing a little bit today.
Absolutely.
It's always fun when you pop up at one of the events. I know I'm going to have a good time, and it's good to learn a little bit more about you. And yeah, anything else before we kind of sign off? Anything you need to promote, or anything you're really looking forward to doing you want to share?
I don't really have anything. I don't.
Yeah, I put you on the spot there.
Yeah, I don't. I don't really do anything.
Eating a lot on Thanksgiving if you want, but
I love eating a lot on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it to the parade this year. I wanted to do it the last few years, but
yeah, that's fun. I'd love to. I'm in charge of cooking the meals on Thanksgiving, so I can't get out to the parade. But I'm jealous of all you guys that are able to be out there. But I hope you get to make it. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you more today. And James, before we sign off, is there anything you'd like to throw in?
No, I can't really think of anything. We don't really have a whole lot coming up other than the Thanksgiving Day parade right now. So
we've got the electric parade coming up in St. Charles too.
Yes, we do have. I think
right
that's
after
the
that.
following Saturday. The St. Charles Christmas parade. I can't recall what the actual name of it is, but yes, that is coming up. I mean, and we're getting ready to fire up for the toy drives and things like that.
That's right.
La Rabida. So,
and we just did our first toy fundraiser, kind of our kickoff event. The past couple of years has been over at the Birches retirement community, and they loaded 6 big bags full of toys that the residents and their families donated to us. So that's exciting, and we're doing a lot of good. So keep tuned in to Why We Bust. We'll be happy to keep giving everyone updates on where we're at with our toy drive here, the big deal towards the end of the year for Windy City Ghostbusters, and kind of the rush to the end of our year, and how big of a check we get to cut to the folks over at La Rabida. So it's an exciting time. I appreciate everyone joining us today. I appreciate James. I appreciate you keeping everything on track, and Ken donating your time today and all your efforts. And everybody, we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.